next big weather maker coming into the upper Midwest that could cause severe weather for us. And it's from the arrowhead of Minnesota to the UP of Michigan down towards really portions of Iowa could see some of those storms as well. So what are you looking at here? This is our big ball of energy, and this is going to be just heading right down the lane and making its way into the upper Midwest and then eventually into the Northeast. This is our weather maker as we go over the next really kind of 3-ish days for us. So let's start off with what it's going to do in the Midwest for us. And we have not only that upper level energy, we have surface features as well. So daytime energy will get everything to build. We'll see clouds, we'll see some showers, and this front is going to sweep on through. And it's not only the energy at the upper levels and that surface low. We also have winds that are going to punch into the system, and as they do, that can enhance the storms, and then the winds from those thunderstorms can come down and cause damage for you. So let's roll through the day here. As we go through the morning, not a whole lot going on. It's really right around that dinner time when things starts to fire up for us here into Minnesota, dropping down as we go into bedtime or overnight, depending on what time you sleep, around 10 p.m. Rain there into Wisconsin and into the UP of Michigan, and it's going to sweep through the Great Lakes as we head into our Thursday, and Friday will continue to push east. So a closer look at the timing for us: International Falls, Rainy Lake. You get it earlier. It pops in later to places like Isabella and all the way down to Moose Lake, I-35, and then it continues to move east. This is the upper level energy that's dropping down, and you never want to sleep on an upper level low. There's been so many times, I'll never forget, one time Jen and I went for a hike, and the front had come through, and we're like, okay, the sun should be out, and you know what we forgot about? The stinking upper level low. It was cloudy, it was cool, it was a little drizzly, we were freezing, and we were like, oh, the upper level low. We forgot to think about that coming through as well. So you have to keep that in mind. That one can really keep you socked in the clouds and the cool temperatures for you. And yes, we will see cooler air behind this. Doesn't last very long. We're popping back up into the 90s in a lot of locations as we head towards the end of the week and into the weekend. Tomorrow, it's Detroit, Fort Wayne, Toledo, and as I mentioned, it all is going to race into the Northeast as we head into our Thursday. Friday lingering into New England, and there are your thunderstorm possibilities. We've had so many thunderstorms in the Northeast. I feel like it's just never ending this summer. It's just been stormy day after stormy day for us. That's how everything is set up, especially with that heat in the center of the country. Rain will come in, and Lynette, we're also going to get some breezy conditions with this. So this could slow down Friday. So look at Friday. A lot of people are traveling with winds 20, 30 miles an hour. That could definitely cause a few issues for you.
Yeah, definitely. I know they're waiting for the weekend.
And it's like everywhere is a little area of interest for us. So we want to show you what Lynette was just alluding to. When you see the wind barbs, if you will, see how they kind of go up and over like that? That's what you call a tropical wave. And so essentially, this is kind of the itty-bitty baby form, if you will, of something that could develop into a named system. Now, will this one develop into a named system? We're watching all of this very closely. But I just want you to, when someone's pointing out a tropical wave, I want you to look for that little kind of hump in the atmosphere. So that is an area of a lot of moisture. Does it get the spin to go with it? That's always the big question for us. 20% chance of development with this system, and over the next 7 days, the central to western Gulf could see some development for us. Again, notice here, whoop, right? You see that tropical wave. Why would it be heading towards the west? Well, this high pressure clockwise flow is going to be pushing all that moisture west. So it gets into the Bahamas, it gets into Florida, it gets into the I-10 corridor. So this weekend we stay stormy in Florida. I know a lot of kids back to school, some going back to school next week in Florida, but watch all this moisture push through the Gulf of Mexico and I-10. Remember, you're going to need that center circulation really over these warm Gulf waters in order for development to occur. So exactly how that all plays out is something we're going to watch, but the European model does have that potential for something to develop. Let's look at the models. Let's look at the spin in the atmosphere that we have going. So you can see a bigger piece of energy coming into Florida and then moving along the Gulf Coast. Now, I'm not saying this is our next named system, but both models are picking up on something. They both have very different tracks, but they're picking up on something. And I want to show you this just to say, now is the time to get ready, There's the GFS taking it a little bit farther south than the Euro. But Lynette, really right now is the time to prepare for hurricane season.
Exactly.
Either way you look at it, maybe this could bring some moisture, much needed, to Texas or areas
Whether
west.
It's just an area to watch and invest or
whatever,
something more, you know, it's going to be super soupy. Super soupy.
Oh, I know what you meant. I know what you meant.
Super soupy. All right, let's take you into another area where we do have storms that are moving eastbound here. We do have the threat for severe weather where you see the red shading on the map. And there's a lot going on in the atmosphere. We have surface features. We have features as you go in the upper levels. We have winds that are also punching in from the upper levels. And so along our cold front, that's where you're going to see some of those storms that are going to be in a line segment, essentially moving east. They are also going to feel the injection of some winds, and that is actually going to help potentially strengthen some of these thunderstorms, and why we do have that better chance of severe weather from Mankato to Minneapolis, all the way up into the UP of Michigan, by the way. Here we could see some of that nasty weather. Takes the day, though, to get going. This morning you're fine, no problems. If you do have plans around lunchtime or a little after from International Falls to Fargo, those might get busted with this line of storms. Everything's going to be shifting eastbound for us here and making its way through Michigan and Wisconsin overnight. So you might get woken up by those storms, and then they continue their eastward progression for us. So tomorrow from the Mitten down into Fort Wayne, even portions of Indianapolis, that's where the storms are going to be. And then this all makes its way into the northeast. The front page is from Hawaii, where 106 people are now confirmed dead in last week's wildfire. The newspaper, West Hawaii Today, the headline reads, "It's impossible to guess," as Governor Josh Green warns scores more victims could be found in the ash. And Honolulu Star-Advertiser says Maui faces a difficult road ahead. With recovery and rebuilding, the world's attention, of course, has been focused on the town of Lahaina, about 25 miles inland. The Up-County fire is still burning near Kula. There was actually a couple of fires that were burning on the islands. Meteorologist is in Kula with more. And we'll have continuing coverage of the catastrophic wildfires in Hawaii all day on the Weather Channel. We also have correspondent Justin Michaels live on Storm Center starting at 5 p.m. Eastern. Jordan.
All right, so let's
We're inching closer to the peak of the hurricane season, and look at the tropics. They have just woken up from the Pacific all the way into the Atlantic. We have numerous areas to watch and the extra rush of moisture headed to the Gulf Coast. We're going to talk about that coming up. Lynette.
And there's
in this little cell into California. I'm like,
we'll
no, it would be like a landfalling hurricane tropical storm, which would be like just casual. Like, no, Jordan, that would be like huge.
I know. We'll break it down a little bit later.
We will. Okay. So first, we need to get you up to what's going to happen right now. That's why we're going to bring that up a little bit later, because we still have a couple of days until that happens. We don't have a couple of days left for the severe weather here into the Midwest. It's coming, and it's coming in quick. A couple things I want to talk about. Big piece of energy, a big bowling ball that's going to go right down. It's going to strike into the upper Midwest. And that's going to happen as we head through the day today. So we have the upper level low, we have surface features. That means there's a lot of lift in the atmosphere. You've got some warmer air, though I will tell you some cooler air is coming in behind this system. But then we pop back up into that heat as we head towards the weekend. But this one line is going to be pushing eastbound, and the winds aloft, that's what's going to help enhance some of the potential for these damaging winds that come on in. So the timeline does take the day to get there. The afternoon, it goes through places like Bemidji, then towards dinner time, Duluth, into the overnight hours, spots like Marquette, and also into the Mitten in Michigan. And then this will all continue to make its way into the Northeast. And a closer look at our detailed forecast shows that as we go through not only the afternoon but into the evening, you still have that upper level energy that's going to come through. That can help keep you cloudy and wet, and look at a few of those showers coming on in. So that does make a big difference. Then we have the winds on top of this. So if you're flying through this area this afternoon, this evening, you could be delayed, potentially canceled. If not, it is going to be a bumpy ride, and you might not be able to get any snacks on the plane. So if you're really hungry, sometimes I'm starving and I'm like, could I please have 2 Biscoff cookies, you know, when you're on the flight? Like, I'm really hungry. They might not be able to give you any sort of cookies or snacks because it's going to be so bumpy. So grab something before you get on. Tomorrow, it's going to be here into Michigan. And then as we head into our Friday, it's on into the Northeast for us. That's where we'll see the showers and some of those stronger boomers from Maine down towards Long Island, New York, where, man, just this past weekend, big time boomers there throughout the Northeast. Lynette, the rainfall, overall light, but in those heavier downpours, we will pile up a lot more.
We have to watch out for that and
show you where it's all coming from. And you can see that surge into the Bahamas late in the week. And you see how our wind barbs go up and they go down. This is a little tropical wave. This is an area that we are going to be keeping an eye on. That a tropical wave is like the itty bitty, you know, baby of a system that could develop into a toddler and then an adult. And I'm talking about a tropical storm and then potentially a hurricane. We watch these waves very, very closely. Little spin here in the mid-levels, not too worried about that at the moment. But we also have that potential for development in the Gulf of Mexico. And remember that these areas over the Gulf, especially since everything has been so warm as of late, they can pop real quick. And if they're in the Gulf of Mexico, they're stuck. There's nowhere for it to go. So this wave is going to be getting pushed westbound thanks to that high pressure. So that means moisture coming into Florida, moisture going all along the I-10 corridor. So it will stay stormy for us this weekend through a big chunk of the peninsula for us. And then we'll follow it along the I-10 corridor. Does this develop? Where is really that kind of center or that area that we classify as the center of this? Is it onshore? That makes a huge difference versus it being offshore and tapping into those waters. So right now, the European has, yes, the potential for something to develop. Does it get a name? Well, it's still too early to tell, but you can see the spin develop on the maps here and watch it really kind of come together. Now, the Euro has it going much farther north than the GFS, and so that could just be a cluster of rain traveling along the I-10 corridor, while the GFS wants to bring this a lot farther south over the Gulf of Mexico, and that could make a difference. We're going to be watching both of these closely. That's just what we do here at the Weather Channel. So right now, as we look through Saturday into next week, there could be heavier showers for us here from Alabama down into Florida, even Louisiana. But with the GFS keeping things more in the Gulf, that's where you will see the heavier rain for us. Lynette.
All right.
For the next several days, you can watch Pattern on the Weather Channel. And coming up, air travel general.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, we could see maybe some flooding out of some of these heavier storms as they come through the upper Midwest, but wind damage is going to be the biggest issue. Where you see the red, that's our biggest severe weather threat. We've got low pressures abound if you go from the surface into the mid to upper levels of the atmosphere. We've got energy lifting everything, so we're pretty certain that we are going to see a line of storms make their way through the upper Midwest. That's going to develop as we head through the evening. And notice some of these stronger winds, too, that kind of, boom, they just energize everything that's coming on through. So the upper Midwest today, Duluth, Minneapolis, Rochester, down into Iowa as well. You could get in on this. It does take the day, so the morning's looking good, even as we go through the afternoon from Duluth to Minneapolis. But look where it gets started around that 2 o'clock hour. We will see it from Bemidji down to Fargo, and then that line gets into spots like Duluth as we head around dinner time. And everything's just going to keep moving east and developing farther down the line as we head into the evening hours and overnight hours, and then this pushes into the Northeast for our Friday. So tomorrow, Alpena down to Indianapolis, even over to Columbus, Ohio, you could see some of this weather, and it is going to stay robust, but we aren't going to see the huge tornadic outbreak or anything like that, but you could still get damage out of some of the winds associated with these storms. Barriers and stereotypes, always a good thing, isn't it here? One group is equipping women and those who identify as female with the knowledge and tools to build their confidence while getting into the out there.
Joining us this morning is Esty Rivera, Executive Director of the Rocky Mountain Conservancy, to share details on something called Betty Courses. Esty, thanks so much for being with us this morning. Can you tell us who was the inspiration for Betty Courses?
Yeah, thanks so much for hosting me. The inspiration for our Betty Courses.
Betty Courses, you're taking women and teaching them how to do things in the outdoors?
Yeah, exactly. They might have.
You know, the program also kind of designed to promote conservation. How do these courses connect women in the environment, basically, to strengthen their confidence outdoors?
Yeah, exactly.
Fly fishing. I've tried a couple times
Not
and never
easy.
once have been able to get a
But you
fish.
know what?
But you just did.
I just did. It's not about what it's about. It's not about catching the fish.
No,
it's the
about
whole
being outside.
experience.
I know. But I'm just saying that they try to teach me the wrist flick and everything. Anyhow, back to you. How long do these courses run? Is this a weekend thing, or you have to dedicate a whole week to it?
So most of them are about
They're one-day class, so
I
you
need
can
to take
become
like
an expert.
a 3-week class. It's hard. Fly
I know
fishing.
it is.
See you
Normal
in
fishing,
September.
not as hard as fly fishing.
So how do you sign up, though? Like, if Steph's curious, or I mean, we had video of you guys doing winter sports, too. Where do you look at what kind of programs you have and time of year and all that?
Yeah, so
You have a favorite?
do I have a favorite?
Yes. One of these classes. Which one did you? Yeah.
I'm hoping fly fishing will be my favorite. We also have a variety of other interesting classes that we offer. And in the summer, my favorite is also the edible and medicinal plants class.
Oh, yeah.
That sounds
That
good,
sounds
too.
good. I saw the rock climbing, too, which would be fun. You don't have to do the fly fishing. I'm glad you tried, though.
No, I've tried multiple times. Listen, Esty, we say best of luck with the fly
Yes,
fishing.
have fun.
Come,
We
let me know how
appreciate
you
it.
do. Because hopefully you're more talented than me with the wrist flick and everything. Esty Rivera, Executive Director of Rocky Mountain Conservancy, thank you so much for joining us this morning. But was it your first time this weekend fly fishing?
It was like second or third.
And how many fish did you catch?
120, a lot.
So how did you do it?
It's all about who you go.
The front page is from Hawaii, where 106 people are now confirmed dead in last week's wildfires. The newspaper, West Hawaii Today, you can see it over here. The headline says, "It's impossible to guess," as Governor Josh Green warns that scores more victims could be found in the ashes. And the Honolulu Star advertiser says Maui faces a difficult road ahead, with the rebuilding and the recovering is going to take quite some time. The world's attention has been focused on the town of Lahaina, about 25 miles inland. The up-county fire is still burning near Kula, and that's where we find meteorologist Jim Cantori. And we'll have continuing coverage of the catastrophic wildfires in Hawaii all day here on the Weather Channel. We also have national correspondent Justin Michaels in Hawaii. He will be live on Storm Center starting at 5 p.m. Eastern. Jordan.
Well, let's get a